everyone, welcome back. Today in our class it's Dress Like an Animal Day, which is why I am in a cow costume. However, then I got thinking, a cow is kind of like a bull, and a woman is kind of like a man. So if you stretch it really far, I dress as the Minotaur, part man, part bull. Alright, maybe it's a stretch. We are on chapter 16, called We Take a Zebra to Vegas. The war god was waiting for us in the diner parking lot. "Well, well," he said, "you didn't get yourself killed." "You knew it was a trap," I said. Aries gave me a wicked grin. "Bet that crippled blacksmith was surprised when he netted a couple of stupid kids. You look good on TV." I shoved a shield at him. "You're a jerk." Annabeth and Grover caught their breath. Aries grabbed the shield and spun it in the air like pizza dough. It changed form, melting into a bulletproof vest. He slung it across his back. "See that truck over there?" He pointed to an 18-wheeler parked across the street from the diner. "That's your ride. Take you straight to LA with one stop in Vegas." The 18-wheeler had a sign on the back, which I could read only because it was reverse printed white on black, a good combination for dyslexia. "Kindness International, Humane Zoo Transport, Warning, Live Wild Animals." I said, "You're kidding." Aries snapped his fingers. The back door of the truck unlatched. "Free ride west, punk. Stop complaining. And here's a little something for doing my job." He slung a blue nylon backpack off his handlebars and tossed it to me. Inside were fresh clothes for all of us, $20 in cash, a pouch full of golden drachmas, and a bag of double-stuffed Oreos. I said, "I don't want your lousy—" "Thank you, Lord Aries," Grover interrupted, giving me his best red alert warning. "Thanks a lot." I gritted my teeth. It was probably a deadly insult to refuse something from a god, but I didn't want anything that Aries had touched. Reluctantly, I slung the backpack over my shoulder. I knew my anger was being caused by the war god's presence, but I was still itching to punch him in the nose. He reminded me of every bully I'd ever faced: Nancy Bobofit, Clarice, Smelly Gabe, sarcastic teachers, every jerk who'd called me stupid in school or laughed at me when I'd gotten expelled. I looked back at the diner, which only had a couple of customers now. The waitress who'd served us dinner was watching nervously out the window like she was afraid Aries might hurt us. She dragged the fry cook out to the kitchen to see. She said something to him. He nodded, held up a little disposable camera, and snapped a picture of us. Great, I thought. We'll make the papers again tomorrow. I imagined the headline, "12-year-old outlaw beats up defenseless biker." "You owe me one more thing," I told Aries, trying to keep my voice level. "You promised me information about my mother." "You sure you can handle the news?" He kick-started his motorcycle. "She's not dead." The ground seemed to spin beneath me. "What do you mean?" "I mean she was taken away from the Minotaur before she could die. She was turned into a shower of gold, right? That's metamorphosis, not death. She's being kept." "Kept? Why?" "You need to study war, punk. Hostages. You take somebody to control somebody else." "Nobody's controlling me." He laughed. "Oh yeah? See you around, kid." I balled up my fist. "You're pretty smug, Lord Aries, for a guy who runs from Cupid's statues." Behind his sunglasses, fire glowed. I felt a hot wind in my hair. "We'll meet again, Percy Jackson. Next time you're in a fight, watch your back." He revved his Harley, then roared off down Delancey Street. Annabeth said, "That was not smart, Percy." "I don't care." "You don't want a god as your enemy, especially not that god." "Hey guys," Grover said, "I hate to interrupt, but..." He pointed toward the diner. At the register, the last two customers were paying their check, two men in identical black overalls with a white logo on their backs that matched one of the Kindness International truck. "If we're taking the Zoo Express," Grover said, "we need to hurry." I didn't like it, but we had no better option. Besides, I'd seen enough of Denver. We ran across the street and climbed into the back of the big rig, closing the doors behind us. The first thing that hit me was the smell. It was like the world's biggest pan of kitty litter. The trailer was dark inside until I uncapped a Anaclysmos. The blade cast a faint bronze light over a very sad scene. Sitting in a row of filthy metal cages were three of the most pathetic zoo animals I'd ever beheld. A zebra, a male albino lion, and some weird antelope thing I didn't know the name for. Someone had thrown the lion a sack of turnips, which he obviously didn't want to eat. The zebra and the antelope had each gotten a styrofoam tray of hamburger meat. The zebra's mane was matted with chewing gum, like somebody had been spitting on it in their spare time. The antelope had a stupid silver birthday balloon tied to one of his horns that read, "Over the hill." Apparently nobody had wanted to get close enough to the lion to mess with him, but the poor thing was pacing around on soiled blankets in a space way too small for him, panting from the stuffy heat of the trailer. He had flies buzzing around his pink eyes, and his ribs showed his white fur. "This is kindness!" Grover yelled. "Humane zoo transport!" He probably would have gone right back outside to beat up the truckers with his reed pipes, and I would have helped him, but just then the truck's engine roared to life. The trailer started shaking, and we were forced to sit down or fall down. We huddled in the corner on some mildewed feed sacks, trying to ignore the smell and the heat and the flies. Grover talked to the animals in a series of goat bleats but they just stared at him sadly. Annabeth was in favor of breaking the cages and freeing them on the spot, but I pointed out it wouldn't do much good until the truck stopped moving. Besides, I had a feeling we might look a lot better to the lion than those turnips. I found a water jug and refilled their bowls, then used anaclysmos to drag the mismatched food out of their cages. I gave the meat to the lion and the turnips to the zebra and the antelope. Grover calmed the antelope down while Annabeth used her knife to cut the balloon off his horn. She wanted to cut the gum out of the zebra's mane too, but we decided that would be too risky with the truck bumping around. We told Grover to promise the animals we'd help them more in the morning. Then we settled in for the night. Grover curled up on a turnip sack. Annabeth opened our bag of double-stuffed Oreos and nibbled on one half-heartedly. I tried to cheer myself up by concentrating on the fact that we were halfway to Los Angeles, halfway to our destination. It was only June 14th. The solstice wasn't until the 21st. We could make it in plenty of time. On the other hand, I had no idea what to expect next. The gods kept toying with me. At least Hephaestus had the decency to be honest about it. He'd put up cameras and advertised me as entertainment. But even when the cameras weren't rolling, I had a feeling my quest was being watched. I was a source of amusement for the gods. "Hey," Annabeth said. "I'm sorry for freaking out back at the water park, Percy." "That's okay. It's just," she shuddered, "spiders." "Because of the Arachne story," I guessed. "She got turned into a spider for challenging your mom to a weaving contest, right?" Annabeth nodded. "Arachne's children have been taking revenge on the children of Athena ever since. If there's a spider within a mile of me, it'll find me. I hate the creepy little things. Anyway, I owe you." "We're a team, remember?" I said. "Besides, Grover did the fancy flying." I thought he was asleep, but he mumbled from the corner, "I was pretty amazing, wasn't I?" Annabeth and I laughed. She pulled apart an Oreo, handed me half. In the iris message, "Did Luke really say nothing?" I munched my cookie and thought about how to answer. The conversation via Rainbow had bothered me all evening. "Luke said you and he go way back. He also said Grover wouldn't fail this time. Nobody would turn into a pine tree." In the dim bronze light of the sword blade, it was hard to read their expressions. Grover let out a mournful bray. "I should have told you the truth from the beginning." His voice trembled. "I thought if you knew what a failure I was, you wouldn't want me along." "You were the satyr who tried to rescue Talia, the daughter of Zeus." He nodded glumly. "And the other two half-bloods Talia befriended, the ones who got to camp safely." I looked at Annabeth. "That was you and Luke, wasn't it?" She put down her Oreo uneaten. "Like you said, Percy, a 7-year-old half-blood wouldn't have made it very far alone. Athena guided me toward help. Talia was 12, Luke was 14. They'd both run away from home, like me. They were happy to take me with them. They were amazing monster fighters, even without training. We traveled from North Virginia without any real plans, fending off monsters for about 2 weeks before Grover found us." "I was supposed to escort Talia to camp," he said, sniffing. "Only Talia, I had strict orders from Chiron, don't do anything that would slow down the rescue. We knew Hades was after her, but I just couldn't see leaving Luke and Annabeth by themselves. I thought I could lead all 3 of them to safety. It was my fault the kindly ones caught up with us. I froze. I got scared on the way back to camp and took some wrong turns. If I'd just been a little quicker—" "Stop it," Annabeth said. "No one blames you. Talia didn't blame you either." "She sacrificed herself to save us," he said miserably. "Her death was my fault. The Council of Cloven Elders said so." "Because you wouldn't leave 2 other half-bloods behind?" I said. "That's not fair." "Percy's right," Annabeth said. "I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you, Grover. Neither would Luke. We don't care what the Council says." Grover kept sniffing in the dark. It's just my luck. I'm the lamest satyr ever, and I find the two most powerful half-bloods in the century, Talia and Percy. You're not lame, Annabeth insisted. You've got more courage than any satyr I've ever met. Name one other who would dare to go to the underworld. I bet Percy is really glad you're here right now. She kicked me in the shin. Yeah, I said, which I would have done even without her kick. It's not luck that you found Talia and me, Grover. You've got the biggest heart of any satyr ever. You're a natural searcher. That's why you'll be the one who finds Pan. I heard a deep, satisfied sigh. I waited for Grover to say something, but his breathing only got heavier. When the sound turned to snoring, I realized he'd fallen asleep. How does he do that? I marveled. I don't know, Annabeth said, but that was really a nice thing you told him. I meant it. We rode in silence for a few miles, bumping around on the feed sacks. The zebra munched a turnip. The lion licked the last of the hamburger meat off his lips and looked at me hopefully. Annabeth rubbed her necklace like she was thinking deep, strategic thoughts. That pine tree bee, I said. Is that from your first year? She looked. She hadn't realized what she was doing. Yeah, she said. Every August, the counselors pick the most important event of the summer, and they paint it on that year's beads. I've got Talia's pine tree, a Greek tree on fire, a centaur in a prom dress. Now that was a weird summer. And the college ring is your father's? That's none of your... She stopped herself. Yeah, it is. You don't have to tell me. No, it's okay. She took a shaky breath. My dad sent it to me in a folded up letter 2 summers ago. The ring was like his main keepsake from Athena. He wouldn't have gotten through his doctoral program at Harvard without her. That's a long story. Anyway, he said he wanted me to have it. He apologized for being a jerk and said he loved me and missed me and wanted me to come home and live with him. That doesn't sound so bad. Yeah, well, the problem was I believed him. I tried to go home for the school year, but my stepmom was the same as ever. She didn't want her kids put in danger by living with a freak. Monsters attacked, we argued. Monsters attacked, we argued. I didn't even make it through winter break. I called Chiron and came right back to Camp Half-Blood. You think you'll ever try living with your dad again? She wouldn't meet my eyes. Please, I'm not into self-inflicting pain. You shouldn't give up, I told her. You should write him a letter or something. Thanks for the advice, she said coldly, but my father made his choice about who he wants to live with. We passed another few miles of silence. So if the gods fight, I said, will things line up the way they did with the Trojan War? Will it be Athena versus Poseidon? She put her head against the backpack Ares had given us and closed her eyes. I don't know what my mom will do. I just know I'll fight next to you. Why? Because you're my friend, Seaweed Brain. Any more stupid questions? I couldn't think of an answer for that. Fortunately, I didn't have to. Annabeth was asleep. I had trouble following her example, with Grover snoring and albino lion staring hungrily at me, but eventually I closed my eyes. End of part 1. Part 2, you'll have to wait for tomorrow.